Hello, everybody. This is Fernando for the latest Half-Life podcast. Alright, another monster here that is encountered within the first Half-Life game shortly after all of the disaster starts occurring within Black Mesa itself, the Black Mesa Research Facility. This one is also a very memorable monster, and it seems like it's a monster that if it were, say, somewhere in the real world today, it would definitely fall in the cryptid-like category. And I'm talking about the very fascinating monster known as the Bullsquid, which you'll see a picture of here. Those of you that have played the game know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that this is a monster that is both deadly in the long range and then also in the short range. Far more deadly, in fact, whenever you're in an enclosed area with this thing, because it is so animalistic, it is so territorial that it will absolutely just do everything it can to do harm to you, regardless of its own condition. That's the great part about the AI that was made, that the game makers made for this monster, in that it's very animalistic. I mean, it behaves like an animal would. It would have no reasoning to it. It would just simply charge right at the person, even if it's shooting at it, because all it wants to do is follow its animal traits. So again, this is a strange creature, a very unique creature found shortly after the chapter in the Reconnaissance Cascade. Very distinctive marks on it. You notice right away that its most distinctive feature are those large tentacle-like things on the front of its face. These serve as both something good for the animal, like let's say it uses it to eat, because there are various scenes within the game itself that are notable where you come across a bull squid. It hasn't noticed you just yet, and so it's either feeding on some animals, because it either feeds on other Zen-like creatures, or more ghastly, it's eating on the actual scientists themselves. And then with regards to those tentacles, it uses them on the bad side. With regards to attacks, if you're getting nearby the bull squid, it'll charge right up to you, hence the name bull, because it charges just like a bull, and then it'll start attacking with those tentacles. And then it has a counter attack on the close side with its tail. It has a very long tail, like as an extra appendage of sorts. It uses it both for balance and as a weapon, because apparently, and I didn't know this before this, there's a little tiny hook of some sort on the back part of its tail, and so whenever it uses the tail as a strike, almost like the dinosaur like ankylosaurus from the old dinosaur eras, it uses it as a swing, and when it strikes the person, in this case Gordon, that little spike at the end of its tail grazes the user, and then that's when it causes some damage. Now on the long range end, and everyone who played this game encountered this the first time, whenever you saw a bull squid from afar, you thought you were safe. No, no. What this thing does, and it's very distinctive when it's attacked, it'll shoot a green-like liquid from very far away with very good accuracy. It's almost like the Vortigaunt, where you have to time it. And so if you encounter this thing from afar, and it's shooting its green-like substance straight at you, you can time it so that you just sidestep to the side, or that you hide behind something. You can't hide behind something though for too long, because the damage caused by this green-like substance, whatever it is enough so that if it strikes whatever you're hiding behind several times, it'll actually break it apart, and so you no longer have a hiding place altogether. Now, as far as the specimen itself and its animalistic traits, again, it harkens back to the bull squid, because it seems like that's the nickname the scientists gave it because of the way it charges, and also because it seems like have a thick muscular body of a bull itself. Where the squid part comes seems to be with those tentacles, the way that it uses those tentacles for either eating or attacking. That's another trait. Another very, very interesting trait has to do with its interactions as an animal with everything else around it. It's very territorial, by far the most territorial scripted AI creature within the game itself. anything that comes within its environment, whether it's Gordon or whether it's any of the other Zen-like creatures or even some of the other mercenaries and special ops that you run into the game, it'll attack anything blindly. It absolutely hates having other things in its vicinity. It'll even attack other Bullsquid altogether. However, its number one enemy, and this is by far a very fascinating trait to see in person whenever you're playing the game, is the head crab. The head crab is its number one thing that it hates the most. I don't know why, but that's the way the AI was scripted in the game. If it sees any head crabs, no matter how much the number is, it'll stop attacking you and it'll start attacking only the head crabs themselves. Very interesting trait. I don't know why, again, it seems to have this thing for head crabs, but it is its mortal enemy. And so whenever you're in danger or in an area where there's both head crabs and the Bullsquid around, all you have to do is just do it so that these two encounter each other, and then the Bullsquid will immediately drop what it's doing and go straight towards the head crabs and then start attacking them. On yet an interesting turn, the hound eyes are pretty much the only thing that it doesn't seem to attack. The hound eyes, which is another unique creature that I'll talk about in another video. So I don't know if they are of the same species or I guess like distant relatives of some sort, but it seems to see the hound eyes as a parallel type creature, and so it does not attack or harm the hound eyes. And yet in another interesting turn, yet again with these creatures, when you encounter them on Zen and they're seen let's say on those islands, those floating islands, those weird floating islands that you see there in Zen, they seem to not even be bothered with you. They're in some cases where they're drinking from some kind of pool of some sort. You can walk up straight to them. You can stand right in front of them. You could even, I guess, attack them and start shooting them. But there's nothing that they do with regards to the part of like them seeing you as an enemy. It seems like whatever they're drinking, it seems to create an almost Zen-like state for them, and so they are in a position where they don't see you as an enemy, and so they're not harming you at all. All fascinating stuff. The way that these game developers worked on the Bullsquid, they added so many rich textures to it. And what's interesting to note too is that this was easily probably one of the most worked on enemies within the game, and this is what I mean here, and this is why they probably added so many textures throughout the game. It easily had one of the largest drastic changes from the very, very beginning up until the final incarnation. Let's look at some concept art. Here you have the concept art, the earliest known concept art, where it wasn't called the Bullsquid. Instead it was called the land squid. And you'll see that it looked far more alien than what we have now. Nothing really looks the same other than the overall body size and maybe like the body theme, but that's about it. It looked completely different than what the final incarnation is. Then let's look at this other concept art. When they went through the next phase, it kept many of the characteristics that you and I see now, but for the fact that it seems to have made the color white, like the developers made the color white rather than anything else in terms of the textured like greenish, blackish, pop-marked areas. And you'll see another picture here, which is a very early rendition within the game itself. That's where it had the same white texture within it. So very early on in the game, probably towards almost the end of the game, there it was with the color of it being white. I can see though why the game developers changed it to the way we see it now, because it would just make more sense, especially in an environment like Zen or anything else, the homeworld that it came from. It would need to be able to camouflage itself, especially if it is the aggressive, territorial creature that it is there, as it would be here. And yet here's another addition. So the developers moved it and now they made it camouflage, but they had it with a stark yellow contrast, and you're looking at a picture here. So this was probably the next to the last stage before it took on its final look within the game itself. And I don't know why they went with yellow, but maybe it was there to stand out. But you can tell that everything else is pretty much the same in the game itself, if but for the yellow part itself. And then, of course, finally, when it came to the final rendition of it, that's the one that we see here within the game. That's the one that later on carried throughout all the other games, Opposing Force. And if I remember correctly, I think it was in the Blue Shift game. If I'm trying to remember, eventually I'll talk about some of the monsters in that game, but I think that it was there too, and that's when it stayed as is. Now, there were plans for this thing, the Bullsquid, to be within Half-Life 2, and you'll look at some early pictures here. Apparently, it was going to be encountered sometime in a canal-like area during the early part of the game, but for whatever reason, the game developers decided that maybe it was too much. They wanted to keep the new game to have mostly original enemies, and so when that decision was done, the Bullsquid had to go. Otherwise, it would have pretty much kept the same characteristics as before, hardly any change whatsoever. Maybe but for the color of it being a bit more reddish than before. But that would have been the only known instance where it would have been found in the game. And apparently people that have hacked the game, they have been able to find something involving the sprite or whatever it is, like the model within the game itself there, and it was even featured in early beta models as well. But again, somewhere along the way the decision was made to cut it altogether, and then that was it. But yeah, the Bullsquid, a very fascinating creature. It's definitely something that went through a whole different set of renditions, of variations of it until the final part was decided. And actually, that's a good thing because with so much rich history and behaviors and animalistic traits that this creature had, it definitely is one of the most interesting Half-Life creatures encountered. So, alright, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care.